Yesterday I spoke about media's obsession with negative sensation and presented some examples of the positive news stories that aren't getting any airplay with mainstream media. There's been a huge response from people who watched that broadcast and it's been overwhelmingly positive. Something else that's received a big vote of support from consumers is my column on Property Observer, which was published today. So I'd like to repeat the content of that blog here, as I think it contains more important messages. I wrote on Property Observer today that the significance of the property price data for March from both CoreLogic and SQM Research has been grossly underplayed and misinterpreted by the dismal media with which we are afflicted in this country. Most mainstream media outlets dismiss the positive results achieved in March as largely irrelevant and focused their coverage instead on speculation about the potential outcome a month from now, which was, you guessed it, relentlessly negative, although based on nothing more than a narky attitude. This rather sadly perpetuates a pattern that has become evident as Australia deals with the health and economic consequences of the pandemic. There is, by and large, a wave of we're all in this together community spirit, which has seen various sections of society rise to this very difficult occasion to do what's best for the nation and its people, with the notable exception of our miserable media. The federal opposition has essentially adopted a bipartisan approach, with some exceptions, to put minimal objections in front of the government's decisions to deal with a mind-boggling situation. The major banks have made it known that they will help struggling customers with responses such as mortgage payment holidays. Businesses that are thriving in these peculiar circumstances have extended new jobs to some of those who have been stood down from hospitality and other impacted sectors. Some of the nation's wealthiest people, such as mining magnate Andrew Forrest, have used their muscle to help with medical supplies or to sponsor medical research. With some exceptions, there are efforts by commercial landlords and tenants to reach a win-win accommodation. And there are plenty of other examples where normal commercial or personal practices have been suspended in the spirit of helping out in these unique times. Now, the great glaring exception to all this has been mainstream media, our major newspapers and television news bulletins. Having been presented with the most sensational news story of our time, which requires no embellishment or need for a beat-up, most forms of media have milked it for all it's worth. The relentless hardline negativity of the coverage has been breathtaking to behold. Journalists have focused on every negative event or statistic with barely concealed glee and ignored all the positives. There's been a stark absence of balance. We've had graphic depictions of the jobs lost and the Centrelink queues, but the considerable number of new positions being created by thriving businesses has been largely ignored. We've heard about the new coronavirus cases and each death in morbid detail, but not about the numbers who have recovered, nor about the evidence of the curve flattening. I've spoken to many people who say they've stopped tuning into news bulletins because they're fed up with the negativity and the absence of any kind of helpful spirit in our media. And I totally sympathise. I've stopped watching ABC television news as one example because of their tabloid mentality. The only place I can find balanced coverage in all this is on SBS television. Now Australia right now is full of frightened people. No one has experienced anything quite like this, and people are justifiably scared about the health issues, the economic consequences, and the disintegration of normal life. But our media is making it worse, far worse than it needs to be. One of the factors evident here is an absence of understanding by journalists of what their customers want from them. I don't think the average journalist spends a single moment of any day thinking about the needs of the people who buy their products. It's all about the story, the headline. The more sensationally negative, the better, and to hell with the consequences. And so we come to the coverage of the property price data for the month of March, which was published last week by CoreLogic and also by SQM Research. The raw data was a good news story amid the carnage. Every capital city and all the regional markets, except one, recorded growth in house prices during March. Now, given that the first share market meltdown occurred on the 20th of February and the event that's causing the economic crisis is gargantuan, I would have expected some kind of adverse reaction in the housing market in March, but there wasn't one. And that's remarkable, but you wouldn't know it from the miserable response from mainstream media. Now here's a sample of the headlines that they produce out of that positive story. Ominous signs the property market is running out of steam and fast. Storm clouds roll over national house prices. Frightening detail hidden in the housing data. Don't expect property prices to rise this year. It's just a matter of time before coronavirus reduces property gains. Housing market not immune as cracks show in Sydney and Melbourne. Housing values slowing rapidly as virus weakens consumer sentiment. My God. The worst of the negativity has come from Fairfax newspapers headed by the Australian Financial Review, which tends to regard residential real estate as something to be attacked rather than reported. Now, one Fairfax journo illustrated the mentality with this introduction to an article that she wrote. The news from CoreLogic that residential property values continue to climb in March looks positive at first blush, but a deeper delve shows signs are starting to emerge, etc., etc., on with the negativity. And this is standard procedure for some journalists. Ignore the positives and keep digging till you find a negative and focus on that. And if you can't find a negative amongst the facts, you can always call the usual suspects who are willing to make doomsday forecasts. Some property writers have them on speed dial. We all know the analogy about those who see the glass half full and those who perceive it as half empty. Well, there's a third category for Fairfax journalists, those who see the glass as completely empty. It's beyond sad. If you had a friend or family member with this kind of mentality, you would be urging them to seek help from a mental health professional. Now, I'm not kidding myself that real estate is immune to a virus-induced downturn. It's still early in the story and some markets will take a hit. But I do expect it to be short-term and I do expect a notable recovery on the other side. And yes, I do think it's remarkable that real estate survived the march we've just had with values rising in virtually every market across the nation. It says something about the strength of our markets going into the crisis and the resilience of real estate in times of adversity. That's it for now, but I plan to keep doing regular broadcasts in which I will highlight some of the positive events that are happening in contrast to what our miserable media is serving up day after day. Bye for now.